I had to. So I was going at it, but you know, Jay was going at it and shit. So he knew it before I did.
And then when she actually was saw the plane, she we had the Blackberries, and she said, "I don't like this plane." And I was like, "Well, don't get on it." And she was like, "Well, I got to because I got work to do."
According to a new book called Baby Girl, better known as Aaliyah, by Kathy Ian Doley, a source is claiming that Aaliyah was hesitant to get on the plane the day of the plane crash. The source says that Aaliyah was given a sleeping pill and carried onto the plane unconscious before the fatal crash happened in the Bahamas.
More and more signs are pointing towards Aaliyah's death being something way more than just a tragic accident. And it looks like there's a real chance Baby Girl might finally get the justice she deserves in 2024. So Dame Dash and others close to Aaliyah are stepping up and speaking out about all the shady stuff surrounding her death, and fans are really pushing for a reopening of the case this year. But that's not all. Word on the street is that Dame Dash is supposedly teaming up with the authorities to dig deeper into whether Jay Z and Diddy might have had something to do with what happened to Aaliyah. There's been a lot of talk over the years suggesting that Aaliyah's plane crash wasn't just some accident, and some big names in the industry have even come out saying she was straight up murdered. In fact, Mary J. Blige called it a spiritual murder, which you gotta admit is a pretty bizarre way to describe a plane accident.
I just know that was a murder. You know what I'm saying? That was a spiritual murder, whether people know it or not. Because God don't kill people. You know what I'm saying? Whether people know it or not. And I could go deep, but a lot of people I would have to really bring proof. You know what I'm saying? For what I learned. And she just was cut down in the prime of her life.
But here's the thing. Is there any solid evidence tying Jay Z to this supposed scheme involving Aaliyah's sacrifice? And what's the deal with reports that Dame Dash is working with the feds to bring down Jay Z? Let's break it down.
But we developed a real friendship before that. Right. You know what I mean? But it was always apprehension because other people were trying to get out. You know what I'm saying? First. You know what I mean? Right, so I had to...
This year would have marked Aaliyah's 45th birthday, and honestly, it's so gut-wrenching to think about what an absolute icon she would have become by now if she were still with us. Aaliyah was the full package. She could sing, dance, act, she had brains, charm, and that natural beauty that just turned heads. Her star power was off the charts, and if she were still around, a lot of today's faves and self-proclaimed queens wouldn't even come close. But sadly, on August 25th, 2001, Aaliyah's life was tragically cut short at just 22 in that bizarre plane crash in the Bahamas. The official word is that the plane carrying Aaliyah and 8 others crashed due to being overloaded. But many of Aaliyah's fans have never really bought into that story because there's just too much that doesn't quite fit. And now there's apparently some fresh evidence surfacing suggesting that Aaliyah's passing might not have been the accident it was made out to be. To give you some context, 3 days before her passing on August 22nd, Aaliyah flew to Miami to shoot the video for Rock the Boat, directed by Hype Williams. Everything was going as planned when suddenly Hype announced that the shooting would be moved to the Bahamas, and he told Aaliyah they had to leave ASAP. Aaliyah was hesitant because she was terrified of flying, and she never went on a plane without her mom or brother. But Hype made it seem like it was absolutely necessary to go to the Bahamas, and on August 23rd, Aaliyah, together with several employees of Virgin Records, flew to the islands on a very dodgy-looking plane. In fact, according to Dame Dash, Aaliyah had a very bad feeling as soon as she saw the plane they gave her.
And then when she actually was saw the plane, she we had the Blackberries, and she said, "I don't like this plane." And I was like, "Well, don't get on it." And she was like, "Well, I got to because I got work to do." She got on the plane, and she always had a very serious fear of planes in general. So she had to overcome a fear to get on that plane.
But here's where it gets even more disturbing. Dame also spilled the beans that Lenny Kravitz, who has family in the Bahamas, offered Aaliyah his private jet. But shockingly, Hype Williams swooped in and took that offer away from her. Now fast forward to that fateful day, August 25th, when Aaliyah was scheduled to fly back to Miami from the Abaco Islands. And this time, the plane they gave her was even smaller than the one in which she had originally arrived. Once again, Aaliyah's intuition told her something was off. And this time, she was determined determined not to board that plane. According to eyewitnesses, she even went back to the taxicab and told her team she had a headache and wanted to stay another day in the Bahamas. But then someone from her team went to the cab and gave Aaliyah some kind of pill. Shortly after, she passed out, and eyewitnesses said she was carried unconscious on the plane. Journalist Kathy Landoli wrote in her 2021 biography of Aaliyah that a man by the name of Kingsley Russell, whose family ran the taxicab company, said that Aaliyah's team took her out of the van and she didn't even know she was getting boarded on a plane. Sadly, Aaliyah's worst nightmares turned into reality shortly after. And if there's any consolation in this tragedy, it's that she wasn't awake to see what was about to happen. Moments after takeoff, the plane went down just about 200 feet from the runway, and Aaliyah and 7 of the 8 other passengers on board lost their lives instantly. Scott Gallen, Aaliyah's security guard, managed to survive the crash, but he passed away shortly after.
But her life, her dreams were taken away. On board the doomed Cessna, Aaliyah and 8 others, including a representative for Virgin Records and a makeup artist. Investigators say one of the engines apparently failed. They crashed just short of a runway on Abaco Island.
Now let's talk about Jay Z's alleged connection to this tragedy. So as you probably know, when Aaliyah was very young, she unfortunately fell victim to R. Kelly's sick, twisted ways. And who was right there next to R. Kelly when this was going on? None other than his BFF at the time, Jay Z. Jay Z was one of the many creepy industry men circling around Aaliyah when she was entirely too young. And to make a bad situation worse, according to Dame Dash, after Jay Z found out what that sicko R. Kelly did to Aaliyah, he refused to cut ties with him. In fact, the same year Aaliyah died, Jay started working on his joint album with Kelly, The Best of Both Worlds. But that's not all. According to Jaguar Wright, Jay-Z didn't just try to get with Aaliyah, he was obsessed with her and eventually manipulated her into hooking up with him. But Aaliyah wasn't interested in being Jay-Z's arm candy and posing for him on magazine covers. She also preferred Dame's company, and their friendship eventually turned into something more. And according to Jaguar, Jay-Z's ego couldn't take this. Jag made some bold allegations in one of her viral interviews, claiming that Jay had Aaliyah killed because he's always been envious of other people having something he wanted.
You know, I ain't simple like his wife, and neither was Aaliyah. I guess that's why he had her.
Ugh.
Prove me wrong, sue me again. You that young woman. Who the else would have known better how to have someone posing as Dame Dash's personal assistant call Aaliyah so strategically and tell her she needed to rush to the hospital in Miami because Dame was on his deathbed. Dame wasn't nowhere near Miami, and he ain't have no assistant call Aaliyah. Who the else would have known that other than his closest ally, his best friend, that was f***ing her before him? Prove me wrong, sue me, or kill me. I'm ready.
Jaguar also pointed out that Jay and Beyonce both had a lot to gain from Aaliyah being out of the picture. And there's been a ton of chatter among fans speculating that Jay might have actually hired Hype Williams to convince Aaliyah to get on that flight to the Bahamas. Here's the thing. When Hype directed Beyonce and Jay-Z's music video for Drunken Love in 2013, a bunch of fans couldn't help but notice something fishy. First of all, the video was shot in Miami on a beach that looked very much like the one where Aaliyah filmed Rock the Boat. Also, in the opening scene, Beyonce is seen carrying a trophy, which some folks think could be symbolic of her supposedly snatching Aaliyah's spot as the #1 R&B girl. Jaguar also said in a different interview that Jay-Z was obsessed with having the top R&B girl by his side, all part of his plan to boost his rep as the ultimate hip-hop mogul. But Aaliyah just wasn't feeling him like that, and she genuinely liked Dame. Now, whether it's just a coincidence or not, the same year Aaliyah tragically passed away, Jay-Z and Beyonce went public with their romance, and suddenly Beyonce's solo career took off.
That he will slump anyone in any relationship for $1. Look at how he did Dame. Like, I don't give a if you wanted to get away from your homie, if you wanted to get away from your partner, but to do it the way he did it, it's malicious. But maybe that was because he a girl that didn't want you.
Oh.
Now, Aaliyah's tragic passing is back in the spotlight, and fans are rallying hard, demanding that authorities reopen her case files and finally uncover the truth. But that's not the only scoop. Rumor has it that Dame Dash isn't sitting on his hands either. He's supposedly pulling strings behind the scenes, teaming up with the authorities to shine a light on Jay Z and some other bigwigs in the industry, trying to figure out if there's any shady business tied to Aaliyah's death. And who knows, maybe 2024 will be the year we finally see justice served for Aaliyah. One fan said, "It seems like there is a web of connections between P. Diddy, R. Kelly, Aaliyah, and Jay Z. The more research I do, the more disturbing things I uncover. It's unsettling to think about what may come to light tomorrow." And someone else wrote, "Reopen the Aaliyah case ASAP. That was a travesty for you to murder her music rival so you could prosper to the top. He couldn't have her and his wife couldn't compete with her, so they had her murdered. Dirty MFers." But what's your take on Jay Z supposedly being linked to Aaliyah's passing? Do you think it's just another wild conspiracy theory, or do you think there might actually be something to it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and then make sure to catch this next video.